Joe Rogan is a man crush, which is surprising because he's not really my type. But, I mean, Will Smith is definitely my type. But Joe Rogan is just, it's his personality.
Yeah.
He's the person when someone's like, hey, Brad, you really got to meet my one friend. And you're like, what's the first thing you ask? Is she cute?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, she's funny. She's got a good personality. And you're like, damn, that's Joe Rogan. Like, is he cute? Hey, he's funny. He's really smart.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. This is Christian. We're here at the Horseshoe Came In on Saloon. Another Barcast. Yeah, we are crushing it. I'm just saying. If you don't like it, you can get the hell on out of here.
This is about us.
This is
Here's
about
to
us.
you.
That's right.
Here's to us in the Barcast.
So what's going on, man?
Oh, man, what's the latest? So I have a week home, which is really, really nice. I haven't had a week home in a while. So we were in Toronto last week, and after Toronto, or was that last week? It was like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So like that was awesome and crazy in a whirlwind, and then I was in Raleigh, and now I'm back here. So it's nice. It's like I almost don't know what to do with myself. But I've been doing a lot of reflecting. Do you want to know what I've been reflecting about?
I'm sure you'll tell me anyway.
So what I've noticed is I've been anxious to talk to you because I always want to bring like common themes that come up, and I noticed that.
I talk to you every day.
Yeah, no, but like I save this kind of stuff for the Barcast. You like always cut me off. I never get the time to really expand on my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Please. Someone, security. Come get them. So anyways, before I was so rudely interrupted, what I was saying was, I tend to see trends. It's funny how my clients, I see the same trends around the same time, and it's probably just me recognizing it.
Yeah.
But one of the big things the past couple weeks is this whole idea of silencing the noise. Right? So I came here to tell you that my message for entrepreneurs today is to silence the noise. All right. Do you want to know what that means?
I can't.
Or do you want to guess?
You have like this gold sparkle
In my eye?
in your eyelid.
When I get excited about?
No, like literally this.
Well, take it off. Come on, get it. Come on, get
Really?
it.
Close your eye. It's still there. It's gonna get in your eye.
I know, but okay, get it.
I knew you were gonna do it.
No, for real, get it. Or I mean, if it doesn't matter.
I just keep staring at it.
Is
But
that
fine,
true?
it's still there. Whatever. Just keep talking.
Oh, it gets my kids.
It's distracting
my
me.
kid every time.
Margarita.
Where were we? Silencing the noise.
Silencing the noise.
All right.
Which we're
So-
not very good at doing.
So, as I'm sure you experience as an entrepreneur, like you get a lot of information from a lot of different places.
Everywhere.
And the question that runs through my mind is like, well, it's good to get information. It's like not smart to just be like, I know everything. But like, what information is the information that you should actually receive and take in? And how do you balance that information? In a previous Barcast, we talked about the ready, fire, aim. And what I had mentioned was, okay, you gather information, but at some point you decide on the path and then you go.
Just do it.
Right? So this is kind of like extending on that idea, which is as you see more success, more people come out of the woodwork and try to give you advice on where you need to go and what you need to do.
Everybody's a better entrepreneur than you are, even if they're not an entrepreneur.
You did all the hard work and the heavy lifting, and now they're coming in, they're like, all right, you made $1 million, I'm going to show you to make 1.1 million. Like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, I'm asking myself, like, how do I coach my clients and allowing them to just decide what information comes in and what information doesn't? And I think that my message to them needs to be, or what it's going to be is like, you really need to silence the noise. And you need to realize that all this stuff's going to come in, but what you need to do is you need to find 2 or 3 people you really trust that understand your business, that have been there through it all from the beginning, or at least have an idea of the development of it and taking the time to learn it. understand you, but then also have some expertise to lend to the specific situation. And so having those people that you can count on throughout your organization is going to be really, really important to you, because you can go to them as you need to go to them, as you face a challenge, as you're struggling with something that's not in your skill set. And so figuring out, who those people are and who those people you want to lean on and be really intentional, I think is going to be really important as my clients grow in their business and as they see more success, because all these people are going to come in different directions. And if you can have sort of a core group to come back to and say, hey, I heard this, what do you think?
Yeah.
They can sort of frame it objectively.
I
love that idea.
Well, it's not even that I love the idea. It's that I already see myself doing that. Between you, Jake, and it's not just the three of us either, because there's some of the mentors that I feel like I'm closer to than not. And so, like, Cameron comes to mind. He and I just talk about stuff. It doesn't even have, and the thing of it is like, he doesn't have any skin in the game. He just has his own mentorship, and that's cool. He's got his course. He's good at trading, and that's whatever. But like, he's genuinely interested in helping the business that he's not even directly really involved in. Like, he's part of We Trade HQ, no mistake. But like, he's not in the operations part of it like the three of us are. But like, being able to talk to him, and Don too. Like, I was on an 1.5-hour conversation with Don. We were just shooting the shit and talking and seeing how he was doing, and then he would like give me some pointers on like, here's where I think that you could really capitalize on some whatever's going on. It was just cool to like have that little circle that I have of people that, like you said, I can trust. So like, I do love that idea. I think that it's also important not to make sure that circle doesn't get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that you can't have conversations with people.
Yeah, I think though that for me that sometimes it can be distracting, and I have fallen victim to that. I'm just trying to listen to everybody. Yeah. I have a real hard time sometimes just ignoring some of the negative comments that I get on my videos or on Twitter or whatever. It's hard. I think letting it just roll off your shoulder is way easier said than done. And maybe for some people it just comes naturally, but for me it never does. You can ask any of my closest friends, like, I will sit there and stew on something. I'm like, and that person either is just trying to get under your skin or whatever, but sometimes it's really hard.
When you can get, it's human nature, you can get 20 incredible comments, and then just that one, man, you'll stick and you'll end up blowing the whole thing up. You're like, I'm changing the whole business. Like, no more. I mean, the evolution of the Barcast. The evolution of the Barcast has been, there was a sort of there were growing pains. There was a learning curve. Like, okay, what does the chemistry look like, and where do we want it to go? And I think, from my perspective, I feel like it wasn't only until we decided, like, let's just enjoy the process and not try to hammer it into, like, some sort whatever
of crazy structure.
Yeah, and like, let's just be us, and so it even feels lighter.
It feels lighter. It doesn't feel like work anymore.
No.
Like before, when we first started the Barcast, which, by the way, if you go back and watch the beginning one, sorry about that. But
sorry for his performance.
Yeah.
I nailed it.
But no, not at all. But for for now, it just kind of like we were saying, this is kind of what we wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Before it was like, it just felt like we were just, okay, we have to get this, and that in. But now it's just, we're just talking like we normally do.
Yep.
So you guys that are watching, this isn't something that we just cook up. It's just, we're just going to start talking just to kind of see where it goes.
Yeah.
And for me, I just enjoy these conversations. It's like when we were in Jurassic Park. Do you remember when we were at that little restaurant and we were just talking about whatever? And it was just, I wish we could have recorded that too. Just like that whole conversation about talking about, MailChimp, turning down that $1 billion investment, and how crazy that was, and just talking about our business, and like, can you imagine if we were to turn something down like that, and just all that stuff. Yep. I don't know. I just think it's been a cool evolution. It hasn't even been that long. We haven't been doing this for 2 months?
Yeah.
And I finally feel like we're getting in a groove, but we've done it because we haven't listened to anybody else's opinion, really. I've already gotten people that are like, what the hell is this? This isn't some NBA channel. What happened to all the stock stuff? And the thing is that I still talk about stocks on the channel. But people get so wound up because you try to deviate. People hate change. And I'm not saying that
They do.
I'm not saying that I like change, but as I've gotten older, I've been more open to it. But when I was younger, I hated
Well,
change.
we know that in business, man, people are resistant to change, even
Especially
if they know
business.
it's better.
Especially
Yeah. Even if they know it's what's best for them, even if they know it's what's needed, or they call for it. When change happens, it's like there's always a response.
Yeah.
It's never smooth.
I've started in my older age. I guess I don't know. Maybe it was a turning point when I turned.
How old are you
30,
now? 65?
34. Yeah,
66?
going on 80. Sometimes I feel like I'm 80 when I wake up, but and maybe it's just normal for everybody gets in their older age, the less they care about people's opinions. Because I've
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about this channel. It's like people. This is YouTube. You can be whatever you want to be. You can create whatever you want to create, and that's what I'm doing. Like, this is something that I really enjoy doing, and I love doing it. I'm just gonna keep going with it.
So I never told you this, but when you kind of approached me with this idea of the Barcast, I was actually, after we did a couple, I was a little bit like, well, I would say a bit apprehensive because, you know, you have 8,500 subscribers at the time of this recording, and you do videos all the time. And so I'm never on YouTube. I don't have any videos on YouTube. So I was a little bit apprehensive because I'm like, okay, well, I'm not on your level from that perspective. But then after we did a couple, I was fully expecting you to be like, Christian, you're just not it, you know? And it's me getting in my own head.
Yeah.
And basically what I said to myself was, listen, I'm going to do it as long as I do it. We have a good enough relationship with Brad, you know, like he would come to me if he had any issues with what I was doing. And so I kind of just let it go and said, hey, just be you, and Brad will tell you if he wants otherwise. It's his channel, and if he wants you to be there, he's not doing it out of charity. It's because he wants you there.
Yeah, well,
And now I think I'm maybe the best part of this thing. I think most people watching
Listen,
now, it's because I'm here. Maybe this just needs to be my Barcast.
there's parts of me that won't argue with that. But I think what's really going to be cool is when we start bringing other people on here.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to crush it. I think we're going to slay this because you see this space between the stock market channels that are out there and the business channels that are out there. It's a small community.
Sure.
And I think that when we start bringing on other business owners, small business owners, not these big ass, you know, corporate guys that have 1 million plus followers on YouTube or whatever. No disrespect to Gary Vee because I love that guy. But I think that like digging down into these smaller business owners and really kind of like, you know, opening themselves up to like, here's what I really struggle with. Here's where I found success, and here's what I'm still struggling with. I think that's going to be like, I think that's really going to resonate with a lot of people, especially because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur these days, right?
Yeah.
They don't really understand I guess, what you have to go through to actually be successful. And I think that when we finally start to get to that point where we have people coming on and be like this is the real shit, then I think we're going to really draw a lot of eyeballs just because we're just putting it all out there.
Yeah,
And it's not going to be sugar-coated.
Yeah, and our purpose when we actually made the shift, when we talked about making the shift, was like, let's do this for us.
Yeah.
And then let's allow the audience to pull what they want from that. And I think ultimately what I think we agreed we'll find is like what we want to do is to help people understand that we're no different than them.
Yeah.
You know, and encourage them to take that leap sooner. And if we can get more people out there who are seeing some success, that's another opportunity for somebody who's watching to connect and be like, that person's just like me. If they can do it, I sure as hell can do it.
Yeah.
And getting them to jump in, and that aligns with sort of our mission with what the Barcast, with the purpose of the Barcast. So I'm excited as well. I'm excited to really start connecting with people, building our relationship, and through that, for value to be seen from the viewers.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to ever. So I would love to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, or I'd love to have a multi-million-dollar business, and I'm confident that I'll get to that point. But even when I get to that point, I don't ever want to be like untouchable. You know, there's a lot of big personalities out there that I feel like aren't accessible, you don't feel like you can approach them in any kind of way. So I really hope that like at some point when we get to that point that I'll still be that same person that.
So that you can touch. Your main point is you want people to be able to touch you if they want to touch you.
Guy.
No, but I just want to make sure we're clear with everybody that you don't want to be untouchable, which is fair.
I have a personal space.
You can always touch Brad. Did I get something on my eye?
Yeah, you still got something on your eye. It's still very distracting.
Oh, that's in all seriousness. No, that's fair. Now I'll put that back on you because I hear a lot of people saying that sounds really, really good, but in practice it's not so easy. Nobody says when I get 1 million followers I want to step on the little guy.
Right.
So what if you end up being one of those? Would you call them assholes?
I mean, yeah, assholes works. No, I mean, look, there's obviously going to come to a point where I can't answer everybody's question. I can't answer every direct message that I get. It's just physically impossible. I think there's a lot of people that can't understand that. There's a lot of people that do, but I think there's also a lot of people who are like, oh, he's just too big now to worry about little old me. But honestly, I think there's probably some truth to that. I mean, people don't realize how much 1 million actually is.
Yeah.
You have hundreds of thousands of messages that you get through every day, and you're trying to think, there's no way I can sift through all that. You try to get through a couple or whatever, and I'm even going through that now. I'm not even that big, where I just get bombarded with questions and stuff like that, and I try to keep up with them all, but it's going to be impossible to answer everybody, but I still want to be that person where, like, if you just see me on the street, I'm absolutely going to stop by and just say, hey. Like, that's never going to change about me. That's how I've been from as long as I can remember. I've always been like an approachable person, and I'll just strike up a conversation with anybody. So I know that part about me won't change. The social media part probably will have to evolve into something.
Well, you'll probably have somebody manage that anyway, because I've seen your ability to put a story up on Instagram, and it is painful.
My gram skills are not good.
Painful to watch.
My gram skills are not good. I'll be sitting there for like 20 minutes.
Man.
Jake, how do
Give me the phone. I'll do the caption. Like, yeah, you literally are like a 60-year-old man.
I mean, I am.
30-year-old body.
I know.
Well, they say, you know, money doesn't change you; it just makes you more of what you already were, you know. And so,
I guess,
if you were a jerk, you're just more of a jerk. If you're not, you know. And there are. Our boy Joe Rogan, like he seems like a person who is like genuine, and he even talks about it on his podcast how, like, you know, he understands his impact on people, and if you meet him in public, he'll talk to you, get to know you.
Yeah.
And I would agree, like I would aspire to be that way. I worry about myself though. I worry about myself to like be overwhelmed and be frustrated, and you know, that's something I always work towards as far as.
But I think that'll force you to be conscious of it.
Yeah. I hope my ability to be aware of things will allow me to, you know, be cool.
Well, Will Smith is the same way. That's your boy.
All right. What would Will Smith do?
I mean, he's every time I've seen him out, he's just, you know, I see him out.
Because you see Will Smith
all
out
the
all the time?
All the time. No, like on social media, like if he's just walking around.
Let me be clear. If you ever see Will Smith in public and don't FaceTime me, well, you can't even FaceTime me because you don't have an iPhone. First of all, buy an iPhone.
No.
Second of all, if you ever see Will Smith out and I'm not your first call, hold up, Will. Please say hi to Christian, or like make a video or something. This podcast will be donezo.
I don't know if I have an actor that I'm that passionate about.
A person, a human being?
I have like a man crush
On who?
on Hugh Jackman.
He's like Wolverine Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
Or
Or just like Hugh Jackman. Like, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to unpackage this a little bit?
No.
Like
Everybody
you're like
has,
blushing.
Well, everybody has a man. Clearly, Will Smith is your man crush. There's no doubt about it. So,
I'm not debating that.
I think every dude's got one.
Will Smith I have got like a bullpen of man crushes. Joe Rogan is definitely.
I don't know if I would say Joe Rogan's a man crush. I'm a huge fan of
Joe Rogan is a man crush, which is surprising because he's not really my type. But I mean, Will Smith is definitely my type. But Joe Rogan is it's his personality.
Yeah.
He's the person when someone's like, "Hey, Brad, you really got to meet my one friend," and you're like, "What's the first thing you ask?"
I don't know.
Is she cute?
Oh yeah.
And you're like, "She's funny. She's got a good personality." And you're
She's
like,
okay.
"Damn, that's Joe Rogan." Like, is he cute? Hey, he's funny. He's really smart.
Yeah.
God, I'm gonna go on a date with this person. I'm projecting right now. No, I've got a stable of man crushes.
That's what I feel like. Dude.
Totally off the
I know. I don't care. I feel like dudes that have that don't necessarily have the best looks, they go for just shaving their head and getting as ugly as they can to look like they at least have something going on for them.
I know. I would agree with that. But he's a badass.
Yeah.
And he's
So that's
smart,
what I'm saying,
and
like,
he
it doesn't
can
matter.
kick your ass. Like that's like not you, but yeah, that's.
Oh, he would kick my ass in a second. I don't even want to try.
He's a black belt. Also, anything associated with Joe Rogan, I pretty much have a man crush. Brendan Schaub, Theo Vaughn. I fell in love with Theo Vaughn through Joe Rogan. So, and he's like a hick. He's got like a mullet. Totally not my type.
He's got some strange characters. I love that show though.
I think somebody with a good sense of humor. I really like somebody with a good sense of humor.
And a good heart.
What were we even talking about? Like, what was this podcast even about? Silencing the
silence.
noise.
Yeah. So anyway.
We did a great job of that.
Oh man. More specifically, what noise were you having struggling with? If you were reflecting on this, obviously it had probably something that's happened relatively.
Well, I think I'm going to, yeah, so it's more with my clients. What happens, you've actually done this before. What happens is they hear a bit of information and then they come to the meeting and like they bring up like, hey, we should be thinking about this or that. And that's a strain on your organization. I can't believe how seamlessly we jumped right back into it. Good job. That was all you. It puts a strain on the organization. Like imagine from the perspective of a person who's leading like a marketing initiative, your marketing manager.
Yeah.
And you entrust them with that position and you guys talk about strategy and they spend time thinking about the plan. And then you have one conversation with somebody who doesn't know your organization, your strategic plan, anything like that. And you're like, hey, I just talked to this person like, we should really start doing Facebook ads, right? Yeah. And then that person's like, well, yeah, I know. We're going to do Facebook ads, in 2 weeks. Well, that's fine, but like what kind of impact does that have? Right. One, it kind of implies that you don't trust that person to execute the job. Two is even though they're doing it, like you could be like, okay, they're doing it good, but it's like, if you get in the habit of that, then that staff member ends up getting frustrated because they're like, okay, what's the next thing you're going to want us to do? Yeah. Or like God forbid, there's not a new social media platform. Oh, we got to start doing TikTok. Like TikTok.
I knew where you're going. I got you.
We got to start doing TikTok. And so that's happening a lot where it's not that there isn't a place for that, but it kind of undermines the business. But also it like slows down the business. So I'm on the other end of that. I'm actually, and they're both not great. The other end of that is when I get focused in and I get my hooks into something, I won't listen to anything around me. Like I'm like, all right, I feel like I have it, I'm doing it, and I won't allow room for like maneuvering, which I don't think's good. It could even be worse. Yeah. So, but I'm trying to sort of understand clients that are like that, and you weren't even the example I was thinking of. Like, I have two of my other clients, three actually. It's like, when I come to the meeting, it's like, okay, what's the next thing that you've heard? And like, oh, we need to be thinking about this, or we need to be focused on this. No, that's distraction. Like, commit to the priorities, and if you want to change the priorities, if you want it to come in, something's got to come out. Right. That's what the approach should be.
Yeah, I think for me, the times that I've done it, obviously, and you're right, it's a distraction. I shouldn't be doing it, but sometimes I come from a place of like, I just want to make sure we don't miss out.
Yeah, it comes from a good place.
So like, I try not to like make it a distraction, and I think I've done okay with it, but I know that I have done it in the past. I'm sure there's probably people that are really crazy about it, but it really does slow you down. Just focus on your plan. I talk about this all the time when it comes to stock trading. Stick to your plan, stick to your discipline.
Yeah.
Every time you deviate from it, it usually ends up in a loss.
Yeah.
And so it's a direct parallel to this. Every once in a while, though, maybe there's some sort of shift, like, with what's going on in the economy right now with China trade war. Obviously, that's changed a lot of things, so you should need to change your plan a little bit.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I think are important to be brought up if something shifts, especially like if our market starts to react differently to certain products that we provide and stuff like that, then maybe we need to think about it.
And those are contingencies.
Yeah.
Right? So for a couple things you can do, I think that the outcomes of this idea of silencing the noise, a couple things you can do. I think it's great for companies to have boards. And honestly, we should talk about that idea of like potentially having a board of trusted people who we can go to and we can just say, hey, you know us, you know what we're about, hold us accountable, or just give us, it's almost like an accountability board. But that's one. And so like no new decision happens until we run it by the board and process it as just a part of, they're not making the final decision, but it's a process.
Yeah.
The other thing is the idea of, we've always talked about having priorities and making sure you know your priorities, and it should only be 2 or 3. You have to come to an agreement that is, if we bring in a new one, we take one out. And that's where you are good is, number one, we have open dialogue, so I can be honest with you and I can tell you, hey, you keep coming in with these ideas, and you don't do it a lot.
Yeah.
But if you can have open dialogue where somebody, if you're doing it, they can point it out to you, but by the same token, they can say, let's agree to move, like, I can't even pay attention right now to my own thoughts. So loud.
They just turn on Roy.
I know.
They're just throwing on Roy Orbison right now.
So number 2 is like to be able to, before it happens, say, hey, okay, I know you come with ideas, like, can we have a game plan? So I can say to you, like, what do I say? And we work out how it should play out. Right. But we can say, okay, what initiative should I remove? And then you'll say, okay, maybe no, but let's just keep our initiatives. Right. And then the last thing is, I think there needs to be strategic plan initiatives or strategic plan meetings on your initiatives. And then that's the place I always talk about, like everything has a place. Yeah. So then you're like, okay, well, let's put it on the agenda for the strategic plan meeting. It doesn't slow us down, but we'll put it there and then you'll know, okay, that meeting happens once a quarter. We'll have a conversation regarding that.
I mean, I know that board members get paid. Like from a corporate level, if I'm looking at Netflix, they all get money for being on a board. Yeah. When does it make sense for a small business to do that, though? Because that seems like that's just so way out in left field for me that I wouldn't even know. I mean, when is an appropriate time to even consider something like that?
Whenever you feel like they're giving you enough value that the company can afford compensating for that value. So when we talk about silencing the noise, and I'd say like have trusted advisors, like let's just say that's an unofficial board. So I think every company should have an unofficial board. And so for me, I want somebody that really knows marketing. I want somebody and then somebody else who really knows finances. And then maybe somebody who just like has been a successful entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So like that's what I'm kind of looking for. Yeah. And then I'm having conversations. They're usually people you know and you trust and your friends, and so they'll do it for free. So you don't have to compensate. You don't need to compensate. They just want to see you succeed, so they'll help you out. Yeah. If you wanted to, out of the kindness of your heart, give them, like a profit sharing structure or like a piece of equity. If it's 1%, it doesn't matter. It's just a token of your appreciation. Right. They don't care. They're not doing it for that. I mean, you and I met for months. And if you were like, hey, will you be on my board? I would have been like, yeah. Even if the compensation would have been like, hey, we're going to get together and I'll buy you dinner once a month. Right? It's not that deep. I know it sounds big, but it's not that deep. It's just like, you maybe count on them a few times a month. If you're making a ton of money and you're meeting with them once a month or calling them every week or whatever, you probably should consider compensating them. But I think it's a while out before you even need to consider compensating a board.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think of like board members, that's what I was saying. It's like it just seems like it's just such a big undertaking.
Yeah.
That's like holy shit, you know that.
No, it's an official board. That's why it really even shouldn't be. It's not even a board that can. Typically, boards have equity and they can make decisions to overthrow the CEO.
Right,
it's not
right,
like
right,
that.
right.
It's almost like an advisory or an accountability or whatever. But it's definitely unofficial. And if you want to make it official, you can. But that's going to be years down the road of your business. You could also compensate them depending on what your product is, right? If it's a product based, send them product. If it's Weed Trade HQ, like give them free mentorships or whatever whatever they may see value in. The company buys them a share of stock. They just get creative with it.
Right.
But I don't think they need anything. Most people are just trying to help out the next guy. Like they see themselves in you, and they want to help you out, and you'll pay it forward. Hopefully, is the idea.
Right.
Because if you were, like you said about, you had 1 million subscribers, and somebody came to you, and they had 500 subscribers, and like I really want to grow my followership, like you wouldn't charge them.
Oh no.
Right? You'd be like, yeah, let me help. If you saw something in them,
100%.
you'd be like, let me help them out.
Yeah.
So
Shoot, I'd even throw them on my channel.
yeah, you'd probably show them love. You'd probably give them even more value.
Right.
And so I think just kind of like formalizing it a little bit for yourself, or just knowing that you can go to those people, and it just starts with pick your 3 people. And then once you and meet with them individually whenever you need it, separately. And then if you start seeing success in your company, then maybe being like, hey, can you come together once a year for a meeting? And I want to talk about my company and the direction, and I want you guys, everyone, to be in the same room. Cool. And then the next step, maybe we have quarterly meetings, and maybe it becomes more and more, but that's a process that evolves over time.
Yeah.
But it should happen sooner than later. Especially if you're on your own. Like we have 3 people in the company.
Right.
So we have 3 mindsets, and we all have 3 different skill sets, and we're all really open, and we have a tiebreaker. But if you're on your own and you want perspective, or you're in a partnership and you need a tiebreaker, which I was almost like the tiebreaker before I came on officially. Yeah. I was almost in a way a tiebreaker for you guys because you valued my opinion.
Right.
So all that's really important when you're considering, it's got to be people who really care about your organization.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. I guess in a sense, I already do have that. It's just not officially official, because I do have like that core group of people that I value their opinions off of, and they don't really ask for anything in return for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have board members, but like, I could see where that would develop into something like that.
Yeah. And does We Trade HQ have it? You may have it.
Right.
But does We Trade HQ have it?
Yeah.
Because you have people, I have people, Jake has people, right? And like, then that presents a whole different set of challenges. But again, there's 3 of us, so I think that, and I'm more of like a smaller partner in that sense. So yeah. I almost play that role of like the tiebreaker, sort of like the facilitator of those type of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's something that if the big companies are doing it, if the successful companies are doing it, why doesn't it make sense for us? Like us smaller guys, and why should we wait? It's a model that's in place for a certain reason, and that's for accountability, for advisement, right? It's always people who've been super successful, CEOs of other companies, and then also to make sure we keep the main thing the main thing.
All right. I don't know where I was going to go. That's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I don't have anything else to say. So if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate a subscription. And if you want to see more content such as this, tune in next week as well. We're still really looking to have guests on here. I think that's going to be like a huge game changer for us. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, so just keep watching, guys. Thanks again. As always, I'll see you all before the bell. And B. Smith is out.